The air in the quick-stop convenience store was thick with the smell of burnt coffee and desperation, but nothing stank worse than Karen's attitude. Her sister, Lynn, was no better two peas in a pod of entitlement, waddling into the store like they owned the place, their oversized purses swinging like wrecking balls. It was 6:47 p.m., and the store was a pressure cooker. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting a sickly glow on the linoleum floor. Emily, the pregnant cashier, was 7 months along, her belly straining against her faded blue uniform. She moved slowly, ringing up a pack of gum for an elderly man, Mr. Thompson, who clutched his cane and muttered about the price of everything these days. The line was short but restless. Behind Mr. Thompson stood a teenage clerk, Jamal, on his break, scrolling through his phone, and then the Karen's sisters, who had already started huffing loudly enough to make sure everyone knew they were annoyed. The ringleader, was a mountain of a woman, her floral blouse stretched to its limits, her face twisted into a permanent sneer. Lynn, slightly shorter but no less imposing, mirrored her sister's scowl, her arms crossed over a gaudy sequin top. They'd come for a pack of cigarettes and a six-pack of soda, but what they really wanted was a fight. Emily, exhausted and hormonal, was about to become their punching bag. "Excuse me," Hoa barked, her voice slicing through the hum of the store like a chainsaw. "Is this line moving, or what? Some of us have places to be." She leaned forward, her chins wobbling, her eyes locked on Emily like she was sizing up prey. Emily took a deep breath, her hand resting protectively on her belly. "Ma'am, I'm going as fast as I can. I'll get to you in just a second." Her voice was calm, practiced, but there was a tremor in it, a hint of the strain she was under. Lynn snorted, loud and theatrical. "As fast as you can? Girl, you're moving like you're in labor already. Maybe you shouldn't be working if you can't handle it." She turned to Hoa, smirking, as if they'd just landed a killer punchline. The elderly Mr. Thompson glanced back, his brows furrowing, but he said nothing, clutching his gum like a lifeline. Jamal, the teenage clerk, looked up from his phone, his jaw tightening. He'd seen Karens before, but these two were next level. He slipped his phone into his pocket, sensing trouble brewing. Emily, meanwhile, finished ringing up Mr. Thompson, her hands shaking slightly as she handed him his receipt. "Have a good evening, sir," she said, her voice steady despite the heat rising in her cheeks. Hoa wasn't having it. She slammed her cigarettes and soda onto the counter, the cans rattling ominously. "You know what? This is ridiculous. You're too slow, and you're holding up everyone. I want to speak to your manager. Now." Her voice was a weapon, sharp and loud, designed to humiliate. Emily's face flushed, but she held her ground. "I'm the only one on shift right now, ma'am. The manager's not here. I can help you with your purchase if you'd like." Lynn laughed, a harsh, grating sound. "Oh, that's rich. You're the only one here? No wonder this place is a dump. You're clearly not cut out for this job. Pregnant and incompetent, great combo." She turned to the small crowd, as if expecting applause. Mr. Thompson shook his head, muttering under his breath, while Jamal stepped closer, his fists clenched. "Ma'am, please," Emily said, her voice cracking now. "I'm doing my best. If you could just—" "Your best." Hoa cut her off, leaning over the counter, her bulk casting a shadow over Emily. "Your best is pathetic. You shouldn't be working here, endangering customers with your laziness. I'm calling corporate, and I'm getting you fired. What's your name?" She squinted at Emily's name tag, then smirked. "Emily. Perfect. You're done, Emily." The store went silent, the air heavy with tension. Mr. Thompson finally spoke up, his voice frail but firm. "Now you two, that's enough. Leave the girl alone. She's doing her job, and she's pregnant, for God's sake." Hoa spun on him, her eyes flashing. "Mind your own business, old man. This doesn't concern you." Lynn nodded, egging her sister on, her sequins glinting like armor under the lights. Jamal had had enough. He stepped forward, his voice low but steady. "Yo, you need to chill. She's working, and you're out here acting like you run the place. Back off." Hoa's face turned beet red, her jowls quivering with rage. Don't you dare talk to me like that, kid. I'll have your job, too. She pulled out her phone, fumbling to record the scene, her sausage-like fingers jabbing at the screen. I'm filming this. Everyone's gonna see how awful this place is. Emily's eyes welled up, but she refused to break. Ma'am, please just pay for your items and go. I don't want any trouble. Trouble? Lynn snapped, stepping closer to the counter, her purse swinging dangerously close to Emily's face. You're the one causing trouble, sweetheart. You're a liability. What if you drop something on a customer? What if you go into labor right here? You're a walking lawsuit. That was the moment it all went south. HOA, emboldened by her sister's venom, reached across the counter and grabbed a stack of receipts from beside the register, tossing them into the air like confetti. This is what I think of your service, she shouted, her voice echoing off the walls. The receipts fluttered to the ground, one landing near Emily's feet, crumpled and smudged with dirt. Mr. Thompson gasped, clutching his cane tighter. Jamal moved to stand between Emily and the sisters, his eyes blazing. You're done, he said, his voice shaking with anger. Get out before I call the cops. HOA laughed, a cruel, guttural sound. Call the cops. For what? For us demanding decent service? Go ahead, kid. They'll be on our side. But Emily wasn't defenseless. She reached under the counter, her fingers closing around the panic button the manager had installed last month after a string of robberies. She pressed it hard, her heart pounding. You need to leave, she said, her voice steady now, fueled by a mix of fear and fury. Now, Lynn scoffed, but before she could spit out another insult, the sound of sirens cut through the air. The sisters froze, their bravado faltering as red and blue lights flashed through the store's windows. Two police officers burst through the door, their hands on their holsters, their eyes scanning the scene. What's going on here? The taller officer, a woman with a no-nonsense glare, demanded. Her partner, a stocky man with a buzz cut, stepped toward the counter, his gaze locking onto HOA and Lynn. Jamal spoke first, his voice calm but firm. These two have been harassing our cashier, throwing stuff, and causing a scene. She's pregnant, and they've been threatening her job. HOA's face twisted into a mask of indignation. That's a lie. We're the victims here. This girl's incompetent, and this kid's rude. We're just trying to shop. The female officer raised an eyebrow, glancing at Emily, who stood with her arms crossed protectively over her belly. Ma'am, the officer said, addressing Emily. Can you tell us what happened? Emily recounted the ordeal, her voice steady but thick with emotion. She pointed to the scattered receipts, the overturned display of candy bars the sisters had knocked over in their rage, and the phone HOA was still holding, its camera pointed at her like a weapon. Mr. Thompson chimed in, his voice trembling but clear, corroborating every detail. Jamal nodded, adding his own account of the sisters' threats. The officers exchanged a look. The male officer stepped toward HOA, his voice low and commanding. Ma'am, put the phone down and step away from the counter. HOA's jaw dropped, her eyes bulging. You can't be serious. We didn't do anything wrong. Lynn, sensing the tide turning, tried to backpedal. We were just upset, okay? This place is a mess, and we... Enough. The female officer cut her off. She turned to Emily. Do you want to press charges for harassment or property damage? Emily hesitated, her hand resting on her belly. She thought of the baby, of the long shifts she worked to save for a crib, of the indignity of being screamed at in front of strangers. Yes, she said finally, her voice firm. I do. The sisters' faces crumpled, their bravado replaced by panic. HOA's phone slipped from her hand, clattering to the floor. Lynn started babbling, claiming they'd been provoked, but the officers weren't buying it. Within minutes, both sisters were in handcuffs, their complaints drowned out by the squeak of the officers' radios. As they were led out to the patrol car, HOA turned back, her eyes blazing with defiance. This isn't over, she shouted, but her voice was drowned out by the slam of the car door. Inside the store, the air felt lighter, cleaner. Mr. Thompson patted Emily's hand, his eyes kind. You did good, kid, he said. Jamal helped her pick up the scattered receipts, his usual smirk replaced by something softer, prouder. Emily nodded, her throat tight. She wasn't just a cashier tonight, she was a woman who'd stood her ground, who'd refused to let cruelty win. As the patrol car's lights faded into the distance, she felt her baby kick, a tiny reminder that some fights were worth fighting. The end.